Hello fellow modelers. We have all been there. Your kit lacks details, is overly simplified or has incorrect shape. While you can carefully craft new details using a styrene sheet and metal wires, it can be frustrating to repeat those steps multiple times and achieve a symmetrical result. Take, for example, the ejector flaps of the iconic Blackbird. If you look closely, you will see that the real thing isn't flat at all. Not all 72 scale models are small. This one will be huge. So let's dive in. The first step is to measure the plastic part from the kit meticulously. A precision caliper is a handy tool for this, and using a digital one makes things a lot easier. Be sure to note all the necessary dimensions, including both outer and inner measurements, plastic thicknesses and the length of every section. It helps to sketch a simple drawing and record all your measurements. Notice that the plastic part is slightly deformed. The diameter deviation is 0.3 mm. So I have decided to take an average value, which is 27.1 mm. There is no need to worry about resin shrinking or print deviation at this stage. You can handle all of that in your slicer later on. Rounding your measurements to the nearest tenth is perfectly fine, since most plastic parts vary about half of a millimeter. When it comes to designing parts in 3D, I really enjoy using Blender. This free open source software is incredibly versatile. Not only you can model in 3D, but it also offers sculpting, texturing, animation, and even physical simulations. If you are coming from the CAD background, the transition to Blender may be quite jarring and potentially frustrating at the first. CAD is parametric and focuses on the curves and solid geometry, while Blender operates on a polygonal system based on vertices, edges and faces. It takes some time to get the hang of it. This video isn't meant for beginners, so you should look at some basics first. Okay, if you want to design something for your model, you should change the Blender's default settings slightly. First, adjust the measurement units to what you are more comfortable with. I prefer using a metric system, and I change the scene units from meters to millimeters and set the scale to 0.001. This adjustment ensures that all objects are in the millimeters, enabling easier, more precise transformations. To fix the background mesh, you will need to make similar changes. Simply add the extra 0 to the view end and set viewport scale to 0.001. Once you have made these adjustments, save the file as a template, as every new project will default back to initial settings. I'm not particularly keen on the grey objects. I prefer to change their colors randomly, as this helps to easily distinguish between them. Another challenge I have faced is with the automatic shading. While it gives the object nice smooth finish, the final print often doesn't look quite right. So it is always best to use a flat shading for your objects to see what you will print. That is all for basic settings. Let's get started on designing the opened and closed ejector flaps. Having proper photo documentation or blueprints is essential. I have taken photos from Duxford Museum and found some lovely detailed images on the Wikipedia. I usually place them directly into my workspace and zoom in to examine all the construction details. You can spot many rivets, flap shape or various protrusions. Plus, don't forget to make a cup of tea and take a moment to think about how to approach the design. Avoid resizing objects by guesswork. Instead, directly input the measurements you have taken into the object view properties. I typically start with a simple plain mesh. Since it's symmetrical, I cut it in half and delete the remaining vertices from one side. In Blender, you have access to basic transformations. I rely on the keyboard shortcuts for efficiency. G for move, R for rotation and S for scale. You can combine these with the X, Y, Z axis and use the numeric keypad for precise adjustments. For instance, to move a vertex, I press G, then X, followed by 0.5 and enter. This moves the vertex 0.5 mm along the X-axis. The same process applies to rotation and scale. If you are designing something more difficult than a cube, it is useful to explore all available modifiers. It enables mesh transformations using sophisticated algorithms. If you know how to use them, they can make your work a lot easier. First up is the mirror modifier. which duplicates the mesh along the chosen axis. This allows you to make the changes on the one side, while the others are automatically generated to match. Always use this feature for symmetrical designs. Before diving into details, focus on creating the basic shape first. Working with a flat object is easier, as the Blender can transform it into round shape itself. Next, you will need to add a new circle curve. Resize it to the match of the dimensions of a plastic kit part and rotate it 20 degrees along the x-axis. Now it's time to introduce more modifiers. To create multiple identical objects, the array modifier is incredibly useful. It offers various offset options and allows you to set the numbers of the copies. For example, the Blackbird exhaust consists of 12 sections. Any modifications made on the parent object will automatically update all of its children. The last major modifier you should try yourself with is the curve modifier, which shapes the mesh along the curve, in this case circle. I made the flaps wider than they should be, so I must scale the parent object to fit all the flaps in the circle. Since Blender operates on the mesh system, it may not be smooth as the CAD models. To achieve a smoother finish, you will need to increase the mesh complexity by adding a few cuts. Around 10 cuts should do the trick. However, if it still doesn't look smooth, the issue likely lies with the curve. The default resolution typically has only 12 points, which can lead to visible flaws in your mesh. Increasing the resolution to 100 makes the surface much smoother. Keep in mind that the order of these modifiers is crucial for the final outcome. The top modifier is processed first, followed by the next one, and so on. If you place the mirror modifier below the array will generate first, and then the mirror will apply, resulting in some crazy mesh. This design is still based solely on the small highlighted mesh. For better performance when working on the details, it's advisable to disable the array and curve modifiers, as they can significantly slow down your computer. The flap edge is thinner, and there are small plates on the sides. Unfortunately, I cannot scale them appropriately, since the minimum printing thickness is 0.1 mm, though I prefer using 0.2 mm. Keep in mind that you must make the details a little bit thicker, primarily in 7:2 scale. I find manifold extrusion useful for negative extrusion, but it can sometimes cause issues with a mesh or mirror modifier, thus a basic round cut is often a better option. Each face has a normal vector that aids to calculating shading and reflection algorithms, making it a valuable tool when modeling, particularly for extruding multiple faces at once. The bevel tool is excellent for smoothing edges, and it's also quite handy for creating path lines and various other tasks. While Blender doesn't offer as many measurements as the CAD software, you can use the measurement tool to verify dimensions or angles, though it can be a bit clumsy. Now let's create details like rivets or protrusions. Since I have a mirror modifier in place, it is best to start making rivets from a center to avoid any deformations or asymmetrical spacing later on. At the edge, there are 11 large rivets. I apply error modifier with a count of 6. Once again, keep in mind that you need only update one object. The rest will update automatically. This transformation involves simple scaling, extrusion, adjusting the scale and then moving it along the z-axis. It's just lovely. There are plenty of negative rivets. I experimented with different rivet sizes and settings on my printer, and I found that the ideal size for 7:2 scale are 0.15 or 0.2 mm. To start, I add a circle object with a face and apply error modifier. This allows you to copy and paste the array multiple times. Each copied object retains its modifiers, so you can adjust each rivet line as you please. I am not a rivet counter, my goal is to make the rivets fit well. Keep in mind that the rivets may be slightly larger due to printing limitations. I suggest organizing your objects into separate folders for easier selection, which become crucial for larger projects. Each rivet line is managed by its own array modifier. You can apply them separately or select all and convert them into mesh. Once when it's done, select all vertices or faces and extrude them. This will give you a series of tiny cylinders that you can insert into flap's surface. It's time for another modifier. Select the boolean, move it into the top and set the connection object to our small rivets. This automatically creates nice holes in the flap, and since this modifier is not destructive, you can easily modify or remove the rivets as needed. On the other side are positive rivets. I measure the angle of a flap shape with a measuring tool, which indicates I should rotate the rivets by -4 degrees. Additionally, there are some protrusions that I can create as a separate objects. While this isn't the cleanest solution, it is straightforward, and the printer handles it without any issues. It's important to be aware that you might have some issues with a mirror modifier due to any rotations or modifications that have been applied. To fix this, press Ctrl+A on your keyboard and apply all transformations. That should ensure everything is symmetrical. The rivets are precisely between the protrusions. You must adjust them manually. The flap is divided into 3 segments. To create the positive pan lines, I made 2 cuts and select the top edges. After that, I use a bevel and extrusion tool, and bevel again to smooth the edges. For positive rivets, select all faces, extrude them and apply the bevel. This will create nice rounded rivet heads. To ensure that they are not in the air, move them into the mesh slightly. That is almost it. You can now join the objects together, but keep in mind that making changes afterward might be tricky. Therefore, I recommend applying all the Boolean union modifiers to each separate object. The rivets are placed on the flap, but they can be easily adjusted if necessary. In the end, I have 7 modifiers on the flap that automatically generate the entire engine exhaust from this flat object. I think it is not the worst result. I still consider myself as a beginner with a Blender and usually stick to smaller projects like this. If I made any modeling mistakes, I appreciate your understanding. Blender is a fantastic tool, filled with complex modifiers that simplify a lot of 3D modeling. You just need to understand how it works and know when to use it. You can apply the same technique, for example, for tan tracks. Now let's move on to designing the rest of the part. I will share some add-ons and useful modifiers along the way. Inside the exhaust there is a conical shaped ring that is unfortunately not included in the kit. To get the right size, I start by placing the template cylinder and 1 small plate. Try to draw the cone-shaped curve from vertices. Currently, the shape has just a few edges and vertices. However, if you shift the pivot to the center and apply the screw modifier to the object, it will generate the entire ring. The mesh, however, lacks smoothness. You can enhance its details by using a subdivision surface modifier. This method subdivides polygons into smaller faces, not destructively, allowing for easy modifications while achieving a perfectly smooth finish. It rounds all of the edges, so be sure to add a few cuts to keep edges sharp. But there is another option. Blender is open source and there is many community created add-ons. These add-ons can save you a significant amount of time and hassle. Plus, they are not expensive as a CAD subscription. My personal favorite is Hard Ops. With a simple click of Q and using a shapen feature, it automatically identifies sharp edges and makes them sharp. It's fantastic for working with a subdivision and not destructive modeling. To complete the open exhaust, I insert a thin cylinder. A diameter of 0.2 mm is perfectly manageable for most 3D printers. And now the closed version. Disable the array, apply all modifiers and remove the ring. Next, position the pivot to the back middle vertex. This adjustment allows rotation about the rear vertex rather than the default mass surface. One of my favorite add-ons is Magic Curve. Since the curve modifier in Blender deforms the object shape, this add-on allows you to create an array of separate objects, enabling better manipulation and customization. I set the object and curve, then adjust the orientation, size and flap count. At this point, you can play with the rotation and easily create a closed engine nozzle. Next, I focus on finishing the front section of the part. While the kit part is flat, you can add the pan lines and rivets. To create those pan lines, select the edges, apply bevel and then deepen them using extrude. After that, I made a few rivets and duplicate them, following the same method I used for the flaps. Okay, the 3D model looks complete. The next step is to select all the objects and export them as an STL file. Just make sure to check the selection only, otherwise the entire scene will be exported. Once then it's done, open Prusa Slicer. Even if you do not own Prusa Printer, this slicer is excellent for preparing 3D models for printing. You may notice that the mesh has various errors. Although you can fix them in Blender, it's generally much easier to handle them here. There are incorrect normal vectors orientations, duplicated vertices, and problems caused by mirror modifier. To address all these issues, simply select the object, right-click, and choose a fix using a Windows repair algorithms. It will automatically recalibrate normals, repair vertices, and resolve cuts. After that, save it as a new file. And you are all set for printing.
5 hours later.
I was pleasantly surprised at how much better it looks than the plastic kit part. It is lovely detail for our models. It is funny when comparing the exhaust nozzle size to the Eurofighter. It appears to be 32 scale part, but it's actually the same scale. Just imagine the size of this machine. The final step is to test fit the part, and it's fit perfectly without any additional modifications needed. And that is all. I hope I haven't discouraged you from using a Blender. If you try to decide designing your own 3D part, I'm sure it will turn out beautifully. Keep in mind that this tutorial is not universal. Every new design brings its own challenges that often require a unique approach, which is what I love about it. The Blender project and 3D models are linked in the video description for your use. Thank you all for watching, and special thanks to my Patreons for their support. See you next time!